Alright guys, we're back at it again. We're going to install these Govee RGB WW lights in my garage because quite frankly, the first set of hex lights, they just weren't bright. They're cool enough, but they're just not bright. And first and foremost, they should be, bright because they're lights. I even went as far as getting a second set of the hex lights and they still weren't bright. So we're going to give these a shot. Hopefully these work because I got to make holes in my ceiling for this. So without further ado, here are the contents inside of the box. You have your 4 RGB lights, 4 gaskets, 4 little junction boxes, 4 sets of clamps, 4 sets of wire connector thingies, a user manual, and a little guide on how to install them, as well as the backside how to connect them. And here's some up close shots in case you need them. And here's the old light that needs to come down. I already took down the other light. Basically I velcroed it on, that's why it looks like crap. It kind of pulled the paint with it. But I'm going to be putting on 8 of the Govee lights. I'm going to center them around the garage door opener right there in the middle. And I looked up a calculator on where to put these. Link in the description for the calculator. And basically I just copied these measurements right here. So I went ahead and measured, marked the areas that need to be cut. And I used this Klein Tools adjustable hole saw that I got from Home Depot. And 8 holes later, the result was this. I should also mention that before I actually made the holes, I went over the marking that I made with the stud finder just to make sure I wasn't going to hit a stud. On one row of lights, I did need to scoot it over about 7 inches to avoid the stud. And from there, it was time to feed the wires. I used this wire running kit from Harbor Freight. And what I did is I would take a couple sticks from the wire running kit, screw them together, feed it through one hole, and then pretty much stick it out another hole. And then what I would do, that tip right there that I'm pointing at, I would tape the wire to that tip right there and then pull it until the wire comes out the other side. And here's a shot of a wire that I fed through one hole and coming out the other. And there's the tape that I used right there. I then cut the wire from the roll and I made sure to fold the ends of the wires like that towards each other. That way I know which direction it flows. And to make sure the wire doesn't get sucked up in that hole. I then repeated those steps 8 more times. It was kind of tricky with installation, you kind of gotta like fight it sometimes, but that wasn't so bad. The difficult part was trying to like avoid the rafters and the roof. And here are the other holes that I also made in the back of the garage, which you couldn't really see earlier, but here they are, and that is where it ends. And at this point I just got really tired of seeing the pooled paint from the ceiling. So I went ahead and sanded that, wiped down the dust, added some joint compound, flattened it out, gave it some paint, and that's it. And sorry, I actually didn't record the actual like wiring part, but basically I was lucky in which I had an outlet in the ceiling already. So I unscrewed the outlet, took out the wires from the actual like outlet head and used that to connect it to my new wires that I ran. And I had a live wire from there. And what followed after were the actual connections at the lights. So here's an image I found on Google. Basically you have a wire coming in, you connect that same color wire with the same color inside of the junction box. And if you want to power another light, you run that same color out of the box as well. That's where that second wire you ran through that same hole comes in. And basically repeat that for the other colors. And once you do that, you're pretty much done. Here's the final result. You have 8 beautiful lights, nice and bright. Ignore the mess I have right now in the garage. And I'm going to show you guys the different modes these lights have with this camera right here. So on the right you have the Govee app. Since I had 8 different ceiling lights, I made a group with those 8 ceiling lights. And here I am messing with the brightness, which is kind of pointless though because the camera automatically adjusts to the brightness of the room. I do have these lights connected to a light switch in my garage, but here I am turning them off from the app and turning them back on. And here I am just messing with the brightness again, which is still kind of pointless, but you can tweak it anywhere from 1% to 100%. 100% is pretty bright in my opinion. I keep it like around 60%. And here I'm going to mess around with the colors like in the middle of my screen, starting off with red, orange, yellow, green, blue, cyan, whatever, light blue, sky blue, purple or magenta, whatever you want to call it, and just white. You could also pick any color you want in that little color spectrum line at the bottom right there below. Here I'm messing around with the whites of the lights. I'm going to go really warm white, which is like I guess like a nice indoorsy in-house white. And then going back to the sweet spot of the white, which is in between warm white and cool white. And then all the way cool white to the right, which is kind of like office-y, like work vibes. There's also a color wheel option in case you want to mess around with that. And if you swipe to the right, they assign like emotions to like all the colors if you want to mess around with that. If you swipe right once more, you get, themes or groups of colors in case you're looking for a specific, vibe based on a theme or whatever. But the main reason why I got these lights was because of the smart modes, which these call leisure modes. So the first one right here is the Christmas mode. And this one is a rainbow mode, which pretty much just goes through all the colors. This one is the Moonlight Mode, which isn't really a smart mode, but it's kind of a nice one. This one right here is called the Aurora Mode. This is one of my favorites. This was called the Fire Mode. It kind of like pulses and kind of like breathes, like it's like an actual like a fire. And this one is a Lightning Mode. The lights flicker and stuff. It's like a blue background light and like flashes of white. It's pretty cool. I feel like I'm in a sinking ship like Titanic. And this is a default one. It came with the app. It's called the Party Mode. It's pretty much the rainbow mode, but just with changing brightness levels. But there's literally a bunch of different modes that you could play with. It's kind of annoying though because you gotta assign like the mode to each individual light even though you group them. But here are the different modes. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of them and themes at the top. There's natural, festival, life, emotion, relaxation, and music. But I already looked through every single mode and pretty much just kept the ones that I really liked, which is right here, and there's like leisures in the middle right there. These lights do remember the last setting you kept it at, so keep it at just default 50% brightness. That way when I turn off the switch, turn it back on, it stays like this. But that's pretty much it. I do really like these lights, way better than the hex lights because I could actually like see in my garage now. It's super cool that you could tweak the actual like temperature of the whiteness, because if I'm ever like working on a car, if it's a light car I could turn it to a warmer white, but if it's a darker car like a black car I could turn it all the way to cool white, which is super helpful. And then if I'm ever in my garage just like working out or something like that, I could just change it to rainbow mode, which is a pretty cool vibe. So overall I give these lights 5 stars out of 5 stars. And that's pretty much it guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Remember, life is short, so burn those tires. Peace.